Hello friends, today I am here with a comic book review for Sleepless, which is written by Sarah Vaughan and the artwork is by Leila Del Duca. This is a fantasy comic which consists of only 2 volumes, so it's a complete story in 2 volumes, which was quite exciting when I found out because I love really long fantasy series, but sometimes it's just nice to have something that you can read quickly. You don't have to wait months or even years for a story to finish, so I was really excited when I found out that this is just a complete story in 2 volumes. I've read the first volume last year or the year before, don't remember exactly, but I've read that one before, and then yesterday I reread this one and today I read the second volume, so I've now read the whole story and I thought I'd make a little video about it. So as I mentioned, this is a fantasy comic, and unlike a lot of other fantasy comics, I find this is purely fantasy, because a lot of the comics that I read that are fantasy are often a combination of science fiction and fantasy, but this is really like truly fantasy. It has a very similar vibe to lots of those fantasy books that are kind of set in some sort of world that's basically based on medieval England. This kind of has a similar feel. I'm not sure in what era exactly it's set, but it could definitely be medieval England, with a few changes that the names of countries are different and there is magic in this, but yeah, it is very much a traditional fantasy story. The main character is Lady Poppy. She's on the cover here. She is the daughter of a recently deceased king, but she's his illegitimate daughter, so she's not going to be on the throne. Her uncle is going to be the new king, and it starts out this volume with his coronation. But yeah, she kind of hopes after everything that's happened to kind of lead a quiet life at her own estate somewhere in the countryside, but because her mother is from a different country, and she is the daughter of the former king, the new king kind of wants her to show her loyalty to him, so she has to stay at court, except she isn't really safe there. Right after the coronation of her uncle, she gets attacked by some stranger. She doesn't know who he is, but she's protected by Sir Serenic, the guy here on the cover. He is her protector, and he is also called Sleepless. So the Sleepless are essentially an order of knights that have sworn some sort of magical vow to protect sometimes the kingdom. In this case, Serenic has sworn to protect Poppy, and because of this magic vow, they don't have to sleep. They can always keep watch. So he's one of those, but there's something going on with the other Sleepless. Some of them are starting to, it's called drift, which means they kind of, their mind is, yeah, they're kind of losing their mind because they don't seem to be able to distinguish between reality and memories and maybe dreaming. Something's going on with the other Sleepless, so it's kind of a worry that something like that might happen with Sir Serenic as well, and later in the volume he does start to show signs of drifting. So essentially this first volume is all about the attack on Poppy, who has tried to get her killed because it hasn't been the first time, and she gets there's a few more attempts in this volume as well, so it's kind of a mystery who's behind these attacks, and also the worry what's going to happen to Sir Serenic now that he shows signs of also starting to drift. So the story is quite a lot about political intrigue, because, you know, obviously someone is trying to get Poppy killed, and she is the daughter of a former king, so obviously someone wants to make sure that she doesn't end up on the throne somehow, and I often like court intrigue, but a little bit of it I don't like when it gets too intense, and it's like huge novels that are all about like people that are scheming. I just don't think that's fun, but I feel like in this comic it worked because it was quite a short story, and while it definitely does feel like Poppy isn't really safe, she does have a few people who are in her corner, which just makes it more fun to read about as well, I think. and one of those people is someone that initially doesn't seem very friendly towards her, but they become friends, which was really nice because I thought it was going to go in a different direction, which I wasn't really too keen on, but then it went in the different direction and I really appreciated that. Since this story is only made up of 2 volumes, the world building isn't excessive, but I do feel like you still really get a sense of the world, like kind of magic system that's there, even if it's in the background. I didn't feel like it was underdeveloped, so I really appreciated that. I don't think it's going to happen, but I feel like this world has a lot of potential to tell other stories from, especially because there's mention of other countries, and Poppy's mother, she's away for the entirety of this story. She lives in a different country, and she corresponds with her a little, and she's mentioned, so I think it would be cool to see more from that country, but I don't think it's going to happen, but I definitely feel like there is potential, so I would read it if that would happen. I gave both volumes on Goodreads 4 stars. I think I liked the first one slightly better because it felt more unique, like I was learning about this new world and the Sleepless, which was really fun, and the second volume was really nice because it wraps everything up, but I did feel like in the second volume it feels more like slightly more generic fantasy. Like the second volume really is all about Poppy trying to figure out who's trying to get killed and kind of getting herself out of the dangerous situation. But I still really liked it. I thought it wrapped up quite nicely. I do feel like the resolution came a bit out of nowhere. Like maybe if I'll reread the first story again now that I've read the second volume, I'll see some hints towards like who actually turns out to be the person that's trying to have Poppy killed, but I felt like it came a little bit out of nowhere, but I still thought it was kind of wrapped up quite nicely. There is a romance in this story, but I would say it isn't necessarily the main focus. The main focus of the story seems to be more Poppy trying to gain the freedom to do what she wants with her life. That's mainly what it's about, because in the first volume it seems like it's going to be more about the romance than the second volume actually is, but I kind of like that. I mean, I would have liked to see a little bit more from the romance, I think, but I think it was really nice how it was really about Poppy trying to fight for her freedom, and also like she made some decisions throughout the story that, you know, were all in her own interest. Like she had to protect herself, because I feel like sometimes fantasy stories just kind of forget that the characters are living in a really dangerous situation, and the focus is all on the love story, which just doesn't really make sense when you're on the run or something, like when you're having to fight for your life. Like it made sense for her to like try to take care of herself, and not in a way that, you know, she put him in danger or anything, but yeah, I kind of like that she put herself first and didn't just do all these dumb things for a guy. So I appreciated that, yeah. And I also really liked the artwork, which is definitely one of the reasons that I picked this up. I saw this comic in comic book store and I just thought this cover just looks gorgeous. The second one is really nice as well, but I prefer the first one, I think. And I think, yeah, it's really nice. It's not my favourite artwork of all time. I think I sometimes like a little bit more clean lines than is the case in here, but I feel like it really fits the story, and the colour palette really fits the kind of, it really gives it like a historical feel. Lots of like kind of brown pastel colours, a little bit subdued. I really like that, so that was definitely something I enjoyed. So yeah, overall I thought this was just a really fun, maybe not the most unique, but definitely a really enjoyable fantasy read. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you've read this one and what you thought about it, but also if you have any recommendations for kind of similar comics that are purely fantasy. I'd love to read more of those, so please let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll see you in the next video. Bye!